ideas take shape, thoughts find depth, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. She is a competitive martial artist, cosplayer, Norse turned to a fantasy author, and the author of the series Legacies of Light and Dark, no other than Miss Danielle Orsino.
How you doing today?
I'm fabulous, fabulous, Miss Danielle. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
I would love to. My name is Danielle M Orsino. I am the author of the Legacies of Light and Dark series. I actually have two volumes. The second volume comes out November 28th. First one is a mythic dark fantasy series. Volume one is one through six, and volume two is actually I jump genres. I go into the urban paranormal romantasy area. So I am very excited to share my world with everyone.
Indeed, and thank you so much for sharing your world to the world through your legacy and wisdom, for sure. The title Legacies of Light and Dark suggests a fundamental balance. Is it the core conflict a classic battle of a good versus evil, or have you created a world where both light and dark are necessarily independent forces?
It's more about what exists within you. There's light and dark in everything. It's a balance of what's within you and what do you consider light and dark. Not everything is inherently good, not everything is inherently evil. So I think within it, we've kind of associated the two. So you have to make your own judgment as you're reading. Who's good, who's evil? What do you consider? And what methodologies are really good and evil. I like to always go back to the analogy of Magneto from X-Men.
Yes.
What he did, he really thought he was doing it for the good of his kin. He thought he might have been more aggressive, but he believed everything he was doing was good. He did not consider himself evil, aggressive, but not evil. So it kind of depends on where you are in the balance of things. And that's really at the crux of volume one. Volume two is a little bit about self reflection and self discovery. My characters in volume two, as it takes place more modern day urban fantasy, it's more about hiding yourself and deciding based on society what you consider dark about yourself and then bringing it to light and kind of self acceptance. So, legacies of light and dark is more about what we consider light and dark about ourselves.
What does it truly cause a character to wield a legacy of light or dark? Are there physical, mental, or spiritual consequences that prevent these powers from being a simple solutions?
In volume one, there is the Light Fae take on the moniker of Light Fae
Hmm.
because they were angels who were locked out of heaven. So the first book is called Locked Out of Heaven because they can't go home and they take care of nature. So they take on the moniker of light because they believe they're more chosen and they kind of had an elitist attitude. Therefore, the angels on the other side, who are not evil or anything like that, they were the foot soldiers of the archangels. They take on the moniker of dark fae because they feel they have to hide in the shadows. So it's a different attitude, but their gifts are different. So the light fae use their chakras to connect to the elements and things like that. The dark fae use plasma and they fight. They have actual fighting abilities. So light and dark for them means something very different. One hides more in the shadows to where one feels because they have this magic, they're elite and they can be in the light. Uh, to whereas book two, the main character, she believes that she did because of these gifts she has that she has to retreat. and kind of go into herself. And until she fully accepts it, her gifts can't really manifest. And someone kind of has to push her in order to for her to accept herself and for everything to come out. So there's a balance in both volumes and little lessons within that.
Interesting, Miss Danielle. Interesting indeed. And how did the original legacies, these forces of light and dark, first come into your world? Are they tied to God's cosmic event or something more ancient and mysterious?
It's a little bit of both. For volume one and for the very first book, Locked Out of Heaven, uh, for them, it is the creator. I don't give the title God. I've gotten in a lot of trouble for that. But it is a it is religious based and religious, I'll say religious adjacent. Keep myself out of trouble. I'm already in enough. It is
Mhm.
somewhat Christian based, but it is not a Christian fantasy book. These are angels who one group, the what become the light fae, the virtue angels, were sent by their creator to get a planet, Earth, ready for his or her next great experiment, humans. Their pets. And so then the Dark Fae or the foot soldiers, the Power Brigade, are off fighting Lucifer. At the end of the whole thing, they both think they're going home, and one day they hear the gates of the Shining Kingdom lock. And they're like, excuse us, we're still here. Like, what's going on? And everything goes silent and their wings decay and fall off. And from there, they have to figure out their own identities. They're no longer angels. What happens? And that kind of sets off the story. And what is your legacy? What happens when you thought you knew who you were and you were wrapped up in this title and now you don't have it? What is going to be who you are now? You have to rediscover yourself. So that's really where the whole thing begins. It's I kind of equate it to people who are wrapped up in their job and everything is about their job and what happens when that's cut off, when that's all who they are, their identity is their job. That's a little bit about what this is like.
Mythic fantasy often draws from well trodden lore. What real world mythologies, cultures, or lesser known legends inspired the unique creatures, magic systems, and societies in your world?
uh my creatures and things all become the base for the polytheistic gods and goddesses pantheon throughout human history. So my Fae, first of all, it's an acronym. It's not just fairies. It's the Fellowship Aegis of Earth, the Defenders of Earth. That's what they take on. So they become your pagan, Roman, Egyptian, Greek, Viking, Norse gods and goddesses throughout human history. So all of the events, even biblical, that humans think they're seeing as a celestial event, supernatural, are usually Fey battles or things that the Fey have intervened on. An example would be some of the plagues of Egypt, where they're seeing frogs and things fall out of the sky. The Fey have had something to do with it. It's not what the humans think it is. Something I've gotten in a little trouble for, just a little bit, is the parting of the Red Sea. I rewrite it as a Fey battle that the humans have come across, but see it as an act of their God. So I've taken all of these events and mixed them around in my little writing bowl and redone it. Same thing with book two, Thine Eyes of Mercy. It takes place during the reign of Queen Mary the First. So some of the things you know about Queen Mary are a little different in my world. So I've taken a lot of that stuff and all the myths and legends we know and put it more through this lens of the Fae.
What is the greatest weakness or flaw of your main protagonist, and how does their chosen legacy simultaneously help and hinder them in overcoming it?
First, I write from a omniscient POV, so there's not really one main protagonist. There's kind of Jarvok and Aurora. I'd say there's two. So you're seeing the light and dark side. The king of the dark fae king is Jarvok. The light queen of the light fae is Aurora. Their main weaknesses is their own egos to an extent, and they have not emotionally healed from the abandonment. They are still, in a way, petulant little brats who can't get over the fact that their parent has said no. They just can't get over their mommy daddy issues. And so that clouds their judgment. In Aurora's sense, she takes all of that emotion, stuffs it way deep down, and decides to be a people pleaser and to help the entire world in her kin, but not deal with her unprocessed emotions. She just, she ignores it and decides, I'm just going to help the rest of the world, and that's how I'm going to deal with it. This leaves her open to ignoring a lot of red flags. Jarvok, on the other hand, uh, does not process his emotions, but becomes angry with the world. He's a lot like Magneto in that sense. He's keeps his circle very close and will do anything to protect his kin, even if that means starting wars and destroying people instead of listening. He's kind of that character. So both of them have these issues of, I'm not going to listen, to whereas one is super aggressive. I wouldn't say Aurora's passive, but she lets things go. She'll jump into the fight, but she may have people around her who are not good for her, but she lets a lot of things slide. Even, she's that typical woman in one sense where the red flags are there, but she's like, no, I can change them. I could fix it. And she walls herself off. There's no, a lot of people ask me if there's romance. And I'm like, no, not off the bat, because my queen does not have time to be on Tinder swiping right or left. She's ruling a kingdom and trying to figure things out, and she's in a war. So her heart is closed off until much later. So there's a lot of emotional stonewalling on both their parts.
Interesting, Miss Danielle. And can you give us an example of time a character aligned with the light had to make dark choices, or a character of the dark perform a genuinely selfless act?
For Aurora, or for the Court of Light in general, she has to make she makes a huge dark choice right at the end, and I don't want to give too much away, of the very first book. She has a choice where she could go light, and I don't want to say it's a miscommunication trope, but it's one of those things, if she just stopped and thought, it could have gone a different way. But instead, she projects her anger onto the wrong person and prolongs the war. And it's a dark place for her. So that would probably be the biggest example. For Jarvok, I don't know if it's so much he makes a light choice, but he does show compassion in book two after an event. But it's because compassion is demonstrated to him right in front of his face, and he kind of can't deny it. He could have continued his argument or his rant, and it was at a very vulnerable state, but he chooses compassion in that moment, and that's kind of his light side coming out. And you see it. You get to see what Jarvok is like in the very beginning of Locked Out of Heaven, when he's a Power Brigade angel and he meets a lonely dragon pup named Los. You see that there's light in him initially. You see that he's kind of got a sense of humor. He takes on this, who he thinks is an orphaned dragon pup, and he's a nice guy. And he's got this crazy sense of humor, and he's funny. And you're like, oh, he's kind of a nice guy. And then you see him harden. And it's not until probably book three that you see that come back. So Jarbok's not always a bad guy. He goes through a lot and you see his evolution, but you see how he come back around. It's kind of the opposite for Aurora. When you first meet her, she is mad and petulant, and then something happens where she sees a display of sacrifice and she softens. So you kind of get to see them both go through an evolution, a regression, and an evolution again.
Where does or what is your or what are your short-term and long-term goals as an author of these legacies of light and dark?
Short-term goals is I have volume 2 coming out, the first book of it called A Fool's Journey, November 28th, and I'm so excited for it. It's one of my favorite ones to write because it is urban fantasy. It's just great. I loved it. So short term, I just can't wait for everybody to read volume 2 because it's a trilogy, and I just adored writing it. I had a great time. Originally, the plan was to kind of reverse this and have that come out first. And it's really the one that started my writing journey. So I'm really excited about that. So short term is just to release that book and get everybody hooked on it. Long term, we really want to do animation. That's really long term is to see volume 1 animated. That would be my dream long term goal. Animation, graphic novel, something like that, because I believe this world lends itself to animation. I kind of like that Castlevania style, a little dark, a little violent. I think that's kind of really where it goes. So I really love long term to see some kind of animation series. I know a bunch of authors say they want to see some kind of series, uh, but animation and the whole graphic novel, comic book world is kind of where I'd like to see this go.
Interesting, and good luck to your goals, Miss Danielle. And
Thank you very much.
looking forward for more books to come. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be like you?
Anybody who wants to be an author, I would probably tell them don't worry so much about being traditionally published. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. And I now joke and say I think traditionally published just means sucker on my forehead because you're just giving up control and you're telling somebody, I'm going to go do all the work and I'm going to give you a portion of it. Of all my profits. I just don't see a point to it. I've been traditionally published twice with the series, and so far I've had to redo the covers 3 or 4 times. I've had to re-edit the book 20 times, and, I've still wound up doing just as much work as I am now that I'm published on my own. So, anybody who wants to be published, or wants to write, go ahead, just do it on your own. I know there's stigmas. I know that you want to be in Barnes and Noble and all this stuff. And yeah, it's a very snotty, highfalutin kind of society with writers. Everybody wants to be a New York Times best-selling author and blah blah blah. There's ways to be successful, and you don't have to be the most well-known author in the world. You can have a great group of readers. There's enough readers to go around. You don't have to be published by the top 3 or 5 because I really think you're just handing over your work and saying, "Here, go do what you want." I don't think it's necessary anymore, so I would say really think about publishing on your own. Yes, you got to have a good editor, a good cover designer. Like there's other things that go with it, but at the end, I don't know. I've been taken to the cleaners twice, and you lose readers when it's not done right, and you can't get them back. Trust me on that. But I still have not seen a check, and I've been traditionally published twice, and I've never seen a check. So just go on your own.
Thank you for your advice, Miss Danielle. And can you please recommend a book or books that influenced your journey?
I would say the people that have influenced me the most. I love Anne Rice. Her books are just amazing. I will always put Anne Rice up there. People that do not get enough credit as writers, Jim Steranko. Everybody knows him as a comic book artist, but as a writer, he's absolutely amazing. And Jim will always be in my top three when it comes to influence. Um, Jim Henson is another huge influence. Stephanie Williams, who wrote the forward to my second book, volume two, my first book, and I love her. But those would be major people who have influenced me, and I love it. Like I said, Jim Steranko probably being him, and Anne Rice being up there as my top ones.
Thank you for that recommended books, Miss Danielle. If you could live as any citizen in your world for a week, which kingdom or city would you choose and why?
I would love to tell you I could be in the court of light, but I don't think I could stand it there. The the backstabbing, even though it's the court of light, it's war to live there. I don't. It's kind of like living in the Mean Girl world. So I'd have to say I would be in the court of dark. I could make it there over the court of light. Definitely.
Interesting. And before we wrap up our discussion today, Ms. Danielle, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in the first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Danielle, without giving spoilers, does your series ultimately argue that one of the force must conquer the other, or is it there a potential for a new third path to be forged by the end?
There's definitely a potential for a third path to be forged ahead. I am not finished by any means. Um, do I know how it's going to end? I have an idea. Yes, but we're not there yet. I started volume 3 already. So we'll see where it goes after that.
Good luck to your series, Miss Danielle, and looking forward for more success and more series to come. And thank you so much for sharing to
Thank
the
you very much.
world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support all your series?
Everybody can catch Legacies of Light and Dark, Volume 1, a mythic fantasy series. You can grab it on Amazon, wherever books are sold. You can follow me on Instagram at DM Orsino Author. Go to my website, dmorsino.com. Volume 2, a paranormal urban romantasy, comes out on November 28th, starting with A Fool's Journey. You can actually pre-order it now. The ebook is already up on Amazon and KU. So check me out on Instagram. That is where I am definitely most active, and sign up for my newsletter there at my flow code. So it's DM Orsino Author.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Danielle Orsino, because if you support her, for sure more and more empowering series to come. So, Miss Danielle, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
More to come, people. See you soon.